Captain Kim Soo-jin pressed her palm against the cold metal of the navigation console, staring at readings that made no sense. The star charts displayed empty space where Earth should be. It's just void, nothing. As if humanity's birth world had been plucked from existence like a bad dream. Run it again, she whispered to herself. But the results remained the same. Lieutenant Park Min-ho sat hunched over his communications station, fingers dancing across holographic displays. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he searched through database after database. The young officer had always been calm under pressure, but now his hands shook. "Captain, this is impossible," Min-ho said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every single alien record says we came from Terra Minor, a small colony world in the Outer Rim. But I remember Earth. I remember the oceans, the mountains, my grandmother's house in Busan." Engineer Lee Ju-woo looked up from her diagnostic panel, her face pale. "All systems are working perfectly. This isn't a malfunction. According to every official record in the galaxy, Earth never existed." Soo-jin felt the weight of 30 pairs of eyes watching her from around the bridge of their survey vessel. The resilience. Her crew trusted her to have answers, but she had none. "How do you explain that your entire homeworld has vanished from history itself?" "I need everyone to think carefully," she announced, her voice steady despite the chaos in her mind. "Close your eyes. Remember Earth. The blue skies. The white clouds. The way the sun felt on your face in the parks of Seoul." One by one, her crew nodded. They all remembered. Every single person aboard the ship carried memories of a world that apparently had never been real. Communications specialist Han So-young spoke up from her station. "Captain, I found something strange in the outer system debris fields. Old human ships, abandoned for years. Their data cores contain encrypted messages." "Show me," Soo-jin said. The main screen flickered to life, displaying fragments of desperate transmissions. The voices were human, but filled with terror and confusion. "Day 47, since Earth disappeared from the star charts. We're not crazy. It was real. It was our home." Another voice, older and tired. "They took our world. Erased it like it never mattered. Remember Earth. Don't let them make us forget." A woman's voice, breaking with emotion. "My children are trapped. Somewhere, Earth exists. I know it does. They can't erase love. They can't erase memory." The bridge fell silent. These weren't the ravings of madmen. These were testimonies from people who had discovered the same impossible truth that now faced the crew of the Resilience. Over the next 3 days, they followed the encrypted breadcrumbs scattered across the outer systems. Contained more evidence. Photos of Earth that didn't match any known world in the databases. Personal messages referencing places like Tokyo, London, and Cairo that existed nowhere in official galactic records. But they weren't alone in there. Investigation, sensor operator Kim Taemin noticed them first. "Captain, we have shadows on long-range sensors. 3 ships maintaining perfect distance. They match our course changes exactly." Soo-jin studied the tactical display. The pursuing vessels were sleek and unfamiliar, using technology that didn't appear in any alien ship registry. They stayed just beyond weapons range, but their intent was clear. They were being watched, tracked, and probably marked for elimination. "Why would anyone want to erase Earth?" asked pilot Ju Min-soo, a young man who had grown up fishing with his father on Jeju Island. "What threat could our homeworld pose to anyone?" Navigation officer Yoo Hai-jin pulled up stellar charts comparing official records with the crew's memories. "Look at this. According to galactic history, humanity emerged as a spacefaring species only 200 years ago from Terra Minor. But our real history spans over 3 centuries from Earth. Someone has stolen almost 100 years of human achievement." The implications were staggering. If Earth had been erased from history, how many human colonies, discoveries, and cultural achievements had vanished with it? How many people had been written out of existence as night fell during their rest cycle? Soo-jin stood alone in the observation lounge, watching stars drift past the viewport. Communications Officer Park Jinwoo approached quietly. "Captain, I've been thinking about the messages we found. The people who sent them, they all disappeared. No more transmissions after a certain point. What if whoever did this to Earth is still active? What if they're cleaning up loose ends?" The thought sent chills down Sejin's spine. Their pursuers weren't just watching. They were waiting for the right moment to silence another group of humans who remembered. Too much, she thought about her parents, probably sitting in their sole apartment, wondering why their daughter had stopped calling. But according to the universe, they had never existed. 8 billion people, an entire world's worth of dreams, hopes, and stories wiped away as if they meant nothing. "We need to find others like us," she decided. "If we remember Earth, there must be more. We can't let them erase us all." The Resilience changed course toward the Outer Rim territories. Following the faint trail of evidence left by other rememberers behind them, the shadow ships maintained their deadly patience, and ahead lay only questions that challenged everything. Humanity thought it knew about its place in the galaxy. The attack came like lightning from a clear sky. One moment, Captain Kim Soo-jin was studying the star charts in her ready room. The next, alarms screamed throughout the Resilience as energy blasts lit up the darkness around them. "Evasive maneuvers!" she shouted, racing to the bridge. Through the viewports, she could see 3 sleek ships emerging from what had seemed like empty space. They moved with deadly precision, their weapons already charging for another strike. Lieutenant Park Min-ho's fingers flew over his controls. Shields at 60%. Hull breach on deck 3. Jump to hyperspace. Now, Soo-jin ordered. The stars stretched into lines as they escaped, but barely. The energy beams had missed their engine core by mere meters. They had been 1 second. Slower, the Resilience and her crew of 30 would have become space dust. "How did they find us so easily?" asked Engineer Li Gu, checking damage reports. "We were running silent, no transmissions, minimal power signature." Soo-jin stared at the tactical display showing their escape route. The enemy ships had appeared exactly where they would do the most damage. They knew where we were going before. "We did. Someone is feeding them information, or they have technology we can't understand." For 2 days, they ran through hyperspace, changing course randomly every few hours. But each time they dropped back into normal space, the hunters were there within hours. It was as if their enemies could see the future. The encrypted data fragments led them to the Kepler sector, a region filled with abandoned mining operations and forgotten outposts. The coordinates pointed to Station Kepler 7, a massive facility that had been dark for over a decade. "Looks dead," said pilot Jung Min-soo as they approached. No power readings, no life signs, but appearances could lie. As they docked with the station, hidden airlocks opened and lights flickered on in sections that should have been without. Power for years. A man emerged from the shadows of the docking bay. He was thin and bearded, with eyes that held the weight of too many sleepless nights. When he saw the human crew of the Resilience, he fell to his knees. "You remember Earth too?" he whispered, tears streaming down his weathered face. "I thought I was going insane. 3 years alone, wondering if my memories were real or just the dreams of a broken mind." Dr. Choi Hyun-woo had once been a respected Zen archaeologist, studying the ruins of ancient civilizations across the galaxy. But 3 years ago, he had discovered something that changed everything. Evidence that entire species had been systematically erased from galactic history. "Come," he said, leading them deeper into the station. "There are others. We call ourselves the Remnants, those who remember what has been forgotten." The hidden sections of the station were alive with activity. Dozens of humans worked in secret. Laboratories and communication centers. Engineer Yoon Dae-yoon looked up from a bank of computers, her face lighting up when she saw new arrivals. Pilot Jung Hae-in stopped his work on weapon modifications to embrace people he had never met, but who shared his impossible memories. "We have been gathering for 3 years," Hae-in-woo explained as he led Soo-jin through their hidden base. "Everyone here remembers Earth. We share the same memories of blue skies and green forests, of cities that never appear in any galactic database." In a large meeting room, Hyun-woo activated a holographic display that made Soo-gin's blood run cold. Showed a network spanning the entire galaxy, with nodes of control at every major alien government and trade hub. They call themselves the Synthesis, Hyanwu said, his voice filled with bitter anger. An alien consortium that has been editing galactic history for thousands of years. They decide which species get to exist and which ones disappear. Remove civilizations that threaten their vision of cosmic order. The display showed dozens of worlds that had been erased, entire species written out of existence. The Synthesis maintained galactic peace by simply deleting anyone who refused to follow their rules. Earth was erased because humanity would not. Submit, continued a woman named Kim Yuri, who had been a diplomatic attach before discovering the truth. We were too independent, too willing to fight for our freedom. So they removed us from history and replaced our story with a lie about Terra Minor. Sujin studied the faces around her. These people had given up everything to preserve the memory of their homeworld. How many of us are left? We estimate maybe a few thousand across the galaxy, said Jung Haein. But the number shrinks every month. Synthesis agents have infiltrated every major alien government. Anyone who questions the official history simply disappears. He activated another display showing missing persons reports and unexplained deaths. Humans who had asked too many questions about their origins. Scientists who had discovered evidence that didn't match official records. It's all gone. The worst part, said Yoon Dae-yoon quietly, is that they make it look natural. Ship accidents, equipment failures, sudden illnesses. Nothing that would raise suspicion. Sujin realized the true horror of their situation. This wasn't just about Earth. The Synthesis had been playing God with galactic history, deciding which civilizations deserved to exist. They had turned the galaxy into their personal garden, pruning away anything that didn't fit their design. Ow! Do we fight something like this? She asked. Hyanwu smiled grimly. We remember. We preserve the truth. We make them pay for every life they have stolen. Outside the station, in the cold darkness of space, the hunters were closing in once again. The asteroid field looked like a graveyard of broken rocks floating in the endless dark. Commander Lim Jae-soon guided Captain Kim Soo-jin through tunnels, carved deep inside the largest asteroid where the remnants had built their most secret base. The walls hummed with hidden technology, and the air tasted of recycled atmosphere and desperate hope. What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know, Jae-sung said, as they entered a vast chamber filled with holographic displays. The former military strategist had spent 2 years gathering evidence, and his findings painted a picture more terrible than anyone had imagined. We thought the Synthesis had simply erased Earth from the records, he began, activating the central display. But the truth is far worse. The hologram showed Earth, floating in space, but something was wrong. Reality seemed to bend around it, like looking at something through water. Dimensional readings scrolled past in languages both human and alien. They didn't just delete our homeworld from history, Jae-sung explained, his voice heavy with grief. They physically moved it. Earth exists in a quarantined dimension now, a pocket universe completely separated from our reality. Sujin felt. The blood drained from her face. That's impossible. Can't just move an entire planet. The Synthesis has technology we can barely comprehend. They've been doing this for thousands of years. The display shifted to show dozens of other worlds, all trapped in similar dimensional prisons. 8 billion people on Earth living their lives, completely unaware that they've been cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Her sister Yuna was down there. Her parents, sitting in their sole apartment, probably wondering why the stars looked different lately. Her childhood friends, her teachers, everyone she had ever loved before joining the space service. All of them prisoners in a cage made of twisted space and time. How many others? She whispered. 47 worlds that we know of. Entire civilizations removed from reality because they wouldn't bow to Synthesis authority. Jae-sung pulled up files showing species that had simply vanished from galactic history. They maintained their version of peace by making troublemakers disappear completely. Scientist Kwon So-young approached from a bank of computers, her hands Stained with the blue fluid used in quantum processors, she had been one of Earth's brightest physicists before the erasure. And now she spent her days trying to understand impossible technology. The dimensional barriers aren't perfect, she said, showing Sujin her research. There are patterns in the quantum fluctuations, weak points, where the walls between dimensions grow thin. If we could find the right frequency, the correct resonance pattern. You think we can break them out? Sujin asked. The theory is sound, but the power requirements would be enormous. We'd need access to synthesis technology, their dimensional anchors. So-young's expression was grim. And even if we succeeded, the process might destroy both dimensions in the collision. Engineer Yoon Dae-yoon looked up from her workstation across the chamber. I've been studying the synthesis ship designs we captured. They use quantum cores that could theoretically generate enough power, but we'd need to get close to their main facility. The weight of it all pressed down on Sujin like a physical force. 8 billion people trapped in a dimensional cage, and the only way to free them might kill them all. But doing nothing meant leaving them prisoners forever. There's more, Jae-sung said quietly. He activated another display showing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The synthesis isn't just maintaining the status quo. They're preparing for something big. Ship movements, resource allocations, construction projects in deep space. Before anyone could respond, alarms began screaming throughout the asteroid base. Red lights flashed as automated systems came online. Synthesis ships, shouted communications officer Park Jin-woo from the command center. 3 heavy cruisers emerging from hyperspace. They found us. The asteroid shook as the first energy blasts struck its surface. Emergency lighting flickered. As power systems overloaded, through the tunnels, Sujin could hear people running, shouting orders, preparing for an evacuation that might already be too late. Grab everything, Jasun ordered, pulling data cores from the computers. The dimensional research, the quantum patterns, all of it. So-young was frantically downloading her work while explosions rocked the facility. Chunks of rock fell from the ceiling as the synthesis ships tore through the asteroid's outer layers with surgical precision. The main tunnel is blocked, someone screamed from the corridors. Emergency shafts, Yoon Dae-yoon replied, leading a group toward the hidden escape routes. Sujin helped carry the precious data. As they ran through collapsing tunnels, behind them, she could hear the hiss of atmosphere escaping as the asteroid's hull was breached. Years of research and hope were being destroyed in minutes. They reached their ships, just as the asteroid's core began to crack. The Resilience and 2 other vessels launched into space as the entire facility collapsed into glowing debris. Jump coordinates set, reported pilot Jung Min-soo, his hands steady despite everything falling apart around them. As they escaped into hyperspace, Sujin stared at the data core in her hands. It contained the key to freeing Earth, but using it might mean destroying everyone she was trying to save. The synthesis would never stop hunting them now. They faced an impossible choice: hide in the shadows forever, or risk everything on a gamble. That could either free 8 billion people or kill them all. The galaxy erupted into chaos at exactly 800 Galactic Standard Time. Across 17 star systems, human ships that had been hiding in the shadows for months suddenly appeared and struck at synthesis installations with perfect coordination. Captain Kim Soo-jin watched from the bridge of her flagship as the first phase of their desperate plan unfolded. All units, begin broadcast, she ordered into her communications array. Across known space, every major communication network suddenly carried the same signal. Human voices speaking in dozens of languages, sharing memories of Earth. Pictures of blue oceans and green forests filled alien view screens. Music from Seoul's streets played alongside symphonies from Vienna. Scientific papers written by humans born on Earth proved that humanity's achievements stretched back centuries longer than official records claimed. The Zilani are responding, reported communications officer Park Min-ho, monitoring alien frequencies. They're asking questions about their missing colony worlds. The truth was spreading like wildfire. For the first time in millennia, species across the galaxy were questioning the official history they had been fed. The synthesis had been too thorough in their erasures, but that thoroughness now worked against them. When one lie was exposed, others began to crumble. Captain On. Tae Hung's voice crackled over the secure channel from his assault on the Centauri relay station. Primary target secured. We've got their communication logs going back 300 years. The manipulation runs deeper than we thought. At Proxima Base, Commander Shin Lejen led her team through corridors filled with data storage units that contained the real history of dozens of civilizations. They didn't just erase worlds, she reported breathlessly as laser fire echoed in the background. They've been stealing achievements, reassigning discoveries, making entire species believe they were less advanced than they actually were. Each victory brought new revelations. The Vorthok discovered that their greatest technological breakthroughs had been attributed to other species in the official records. The miners of Kepler found evidence that their homeworld had once been part of a vast empire, not the isolated colony they believed it to be. Synthesis fleet moving to intercept, warned Tactical Officer Kim Taman. 12 heavy cruisers, approaching from the galactic core. Let them come, Sujin replied. We're not running anymore. The battle raged across multiple systems as newly awakened alien species joined the fight. Ships that had been enemies for generations suddenly found themselves fighting side by side against the synthesis forces. The galaxy was burning, but it was the fire of truth, not destruction. The final target was the most dangerous. Hidden in the galactic rim, where few ships ever traveled, sat a massive station that defied easy description. It was part space station, part dimensional gateway, part fortress. The synthesis core facility, where the dimensional anchors that imprisoned entire worlds were controlled. Boarding parties, prepare for assault, Sujin announced, as their captured synthesis ships approached the station. Disguise wouldn't fool the defenders for long, but it might get them close enough. The station's docking bays were filled with technology that hurt to look at directly. Machines that folded space, computers that processed information in 11 dimensions, weapons that could erase matter from existence. Sujin led her team through corridors that seemed to stretch infinitely in directions that shouldn't exist. Security. Drones descended from hidden panels, their energy weapons charging with sounds like screaming metal. Engineer Li Gu's modified plasma rifle cut through their armor while pilot Jung Minsu used captured synthesis grenades to clear blocked passages. The dimensional chamber is 3 levels down, shouted scientist Kwan So-young, consulting the station schematics they had stolen. But the gravity keeps changing. Up might be down by the time we get there. They fought past alien guards whose biology made no sense, creatures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. The station itself resisted their presence, walls shifting to block their path and floors becoming ceilings without warning. Finally, they reached the heart of the facility. The dimensional chamber was a sphere of impossible geometry, filled with controls that extended into spaces the human eye couldn't properly perceive. At its center sat the Synthesis Council, beings so ancient they had forgotten what they once looked like. It would destroy the peace we have maintained for millennia, the lead counselor said, its voice coming from everywhere at once. We have prevented countless wars, eliminated chaos, brought order to the galaxy. Sujin approached, the dimensional controls, her hand shaking as she reached for devices that could free Earth or destroy it entirely. Around her, the council members watched with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. Your peace is built on lies, she replied, studying the quantum readings that showed Earth's dimensional prison. You've stolen the right of entire species to exist freely. That's not peace. That's tyranny. We save them from themselves, another counselor insisted. Species destroy themselves when left unchecked. We provide guidance, structure, purpose. You provide cages, Sujin said, her finger hovering over the control that would begin the dimensional collapse sequence. We would rather burn as free beings than live as your perfect prisoners. The chamber filled with energy as she activated the sequence. Reality began to scream as dimensional barriers prepared to fall. Earth was coming home, and the galaxy would never be the same. Reality screamed as dimensional walls began to crack. Captain Kim Soo-jin watched in horror as the energy readings on her stolen synthesis controls climbed beyond anything their equipment could measure. The pocket universe holding Earth's prisoner was collapsing, but so was normal space around it. Two realities were trying to occupy the same location, and the laws of physics were breaking down. "The dimensional cascade is out of control," shouted Engineer Kim Jun-ho, his hands flying over alien technology that hurt to look at directly. "If we don't stabilize it in the next 10 minutes, both dimensions will tear each other apart." Through the observation ports of the synthesis station, they could see Earth beginning to phase back into existence. The blue marble flickered in and out of reality like a dying light bulb, while space around it twisted into impossible shapes. 8 billion people were trapped between two colliding universes. Scientist Bae-yoon-ji worked frantically at a control panel that seemed to extend into dimensions that didn't exist. "The quantum resonance is all wrong. We're not just freeing Earth, we're exposing everything the synthesis ever hid." She was right. Across the galaxy, other dimensional prisons were beginning to crack open. Worlds that had been erased centuries ago flickered back into existence. Species that had been written out of history suddenly found themselves returning to a universe that had forgotten them entirely. "Can we control it?" Soo-jin asked, watching her homeworld struggle to exist in normal space. "Not control," Jun-ho replied, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked with technology beyond human understanding. "But maybe guide it, if we can. Adjust the dimensional frequencies. Synchronize the collapse pattern." The station shook as reality warped around them. The distant other worlds were appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The Vorthok homeworld materialized near its current location, causing massive gravitational disruptions. 3 Zalani colony worlds phased back into existence simultaneously, their people probably wondering why the stars had changed. "It's working," Yeonji called out. "The cascade is stabilizing. All the dimensional prisons are opening at once, but in a controlled sequence." Earth solidified in space, with a sound like thunder across dimensions. For the first time in years, humanity's homeworld existed in the same reality as the rest of the galaxy. But the planet that returned was not the same one that had been taken. Down on Earth's surface, 8 billion people looked up at skies that suddenly showed different stars. They had lived through years of isolation, watching their planet exist in a universe where they seemed to be the only intelligent life. Now, alien ships were appearing in their solar system, and the night sky blazed with the lights of civilizations they had never known existed. Soo-jin's sister Yuna stood on the banks of the Han River in Seoul, staring up at lights that were definitely not satellites. People gathered in the streets, pointing at the sky, some crying, others laughing with joy or terror. The trauma of years spent believing they were alone was mixing with the overwhelming realization that they were part of something vast and ancient. "Incoming transmission from Earth," reported Communications Officer Park Min-ho. "Multiple governments requesting immediate contact." "Put me through to Seoul," Soo-jin said, her voice thick with emotion. Her sister's face appeared on the screen. Older than she remembered, marked by years of wondering why her sister had simply vanished from existence. Along with all records of space exploration beyond their solar system, Soo-jin Nuna whispered, "Is it really you? We thought we were going crazy." The history books kept changing. Space missions that we remembered suddenly never happened. "I'm here," Soo-jin replied, tears streaming down her face. "We're all here, and we're bringing you home." Across Earth's surface, similar reunions were taking place as families separated by dimensional walls were finally able to contact each other. But it wasn't just humans who were returning. Throughout the galaxy, species that had been erased were reclaiming their places in history. The Synthesis Council members had vanished when their dimensional controls were destroyed, either dead or fled to whatever reality they originally came from. Their vast network of agents and collaborators found themselves suddenly without purpose, as the truth they had worked to suppress became impossible to deny. "First contact protocols are being established on Earth," reported Diplomatic Officer Kim Yuri. "The alien species want to meet with Earth's leaders. They're calling it the Great Restoration." But not everyone was celebrating. Some alien governments had built their entire identities around the false history the synthesis had provided. Learning that their greatest achievements belonged to other species, that their enemies had once been friends, that their entire understanding of galactic civilization was based on lies, left many struggling to understand their place in the universe. Standing in the command center of the captured synthesis station, Sujin watched as Earth's lights twinkled in the darkness of space. Her homeworld was home again, but the galaxy around it would never be the same. The work of rebuilding authentic galactic civilization had just begun. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not as forgotten colonists from Terra Minor, but as the species that had burned brightest in the fight for truth. They had risked everything to tear down the lies that held the galaxy together, and now they would help build something better from the ashes. The dimensional barriers were gone. The truth was spreading, and the galaxy was free to remember what it had once been. It would be a long road to recovery, but for the first time in millennia, every species in the galaxy had the right to exist as themselves,